everyone. Welcome back to the Earthdawn Survival Guide, the podcast for all disciplines, paths, players, and game masters. With your questers, Josh and Dan. I'm Dan.
I am Josh.
And on today's podcast, we will be discussing all things perceptual and navigational. Thank you, Josh, for the words, because I didn't have any. So if you have any questions about anything we're going to talk about today or what we talked about last time, because we got a slew of emails, please contact us at edsgpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes. Scout. This is the last one.
Last one.
Of the high circle, of the Warden and Master Tier disciplines.
Yeah.
We already covered the Shaman and the Gauntlet when we were going through the Mystic Paths. We actually covered all 15 circles of both of them in those episodes, so we didn't have two pieces. We did just one big thing there.
Yeah, they were special. But let's get the 2-minute wrap-up. Actually, this is also all things Lakota, because I do remember that we had this beautiful saying from the Lakota on how to be a scout in the first episode. So not gonna deny that. That was a fantastic piece. So Lakota part 2. So give us the quick 2-minute wrap-up presentation of where the scout fits into the Earthdawn niche.
Sure. The scout, as I mentioned back in the original episode, I'm sure, is considered one of the core 15 disciplines, but was not actually introduced until the Earthdawn Companion, and was sort of one of the examples from that book of something that you could do to build your own discipline. There were rules in that book about creating your own discipline, and both the Scout and the Air Sailor were examples as a result of that. The Scout kind of fills a little bit of the Ranger niche, in the sense that they are primarily considered sort of the wilderness stalker, like the one who makes their way around and so forth. Their philosophy and attitude is one that is generally strongly aligned with the idea of being one with the environment and finding their way about and their survival and whatnot by just magically sort of fitting in wherever they are. The Scout is not, in fact, limited to just wilderness. They are equally at home in urban settings. There is, in fact, one of the, and I think in the original Adept's Way source book, the essay for the Scout has an example where somebody was looking to hire a Scout and was waiting for the Scout to show up and getting increasingly upset. And then suddenly one of the servants that was there revealed that he was, in fact, the Scout. Here's my demonstration of how effective I am at infiltration, because you didn't even realize that one of the servants here was not, in fact, one of your servants, because I fit in so well to the environment.
Yeah.
But a lot of the Scout's abilities, there's a little bit of Beastmaster in some of it, a little bit of Archer in some senses. The Scout is a sort of specialist discipline in that they're that durability 5 level.
Yeah.
They can fight, but they don't have the suite of combat enhancing abilities. And generally you will take your Scout either as a physical, like a melee combatant, or a ranged combatant. It's probably not super effective to try and do both. I mean, you could do it, but you likely end up missing out on a lot of more useful utility and support talents that you get as options.
Fair enough.
A little bit of thief in there as well, in terms of their stealth abilities and whatnot. So
glad you threw that in at the end, because I was going to point that out eventually as we get there. So at 9th Circle, the Scout, along with everybody else, gets this fantastic, wonderful ability called Supernatural Awareness.
No, Supernal.
Supernal. I thought that was a typo. My fault. So
that is an actual word.
Look at that. The Adept performs an 8-hour ritual to heighten their senses to supernatural levels, hence my confusion. The Adept's ritual is unique, often based on their training and personal philosophy. Some forge a deep connection with nature, losing a bit of themselves in the process, while others may commune with the spirit, literal or metaphorical, of a city. The ritual is often performed as the last step of becoming a warden, but may be done at any time. After this ritual, the Adept takes 1 blood magic damage and permanently adds +3 to their perception value, raising their perception up an entire step.
Yes. We've had other disciplines that have had similar abilities. The Nethermancer gets willpower. The Sky Raider gets strength. The Beastmaster gets toughness. The Troubadour gets charisma, I think, maybe.
I think you're right. Let me check.
But yeah,
Yes, you are correct. You are correct.
this is that category of ability where they just take blood magic and get a boost to an important attribute that allows them to raise it more than you would normally be able to raise it.
Yeah, totally. And worth a blood magic point of damage instead of, 800 legend points. So I'm just going to say that right there. Well, that's only whatever. Anyway, so for Karma at ninth circle, the scout can now spend a point of Karma on any test made to escape detection.
Yeah, this is sort of a broad ability, much like a lot of the other higher circle Karma abilities. This opens up the opportunity for the adept to spend an additional point of Karma on talents that sort of fulfill that role, but also anything that they're doing. It's any test. So you could, in theory, apply it to skills. You could apply it to any other kind of role that might be appropriate, where the adept would be able to bring their magic to bear.
Absolutely. And the discipline talent at ninth circle for the scout, Eagle Eye.
Eagle Eye is a perception booster. It provides a bonus equal to its rank to any perception tests made to see things that are a distance away. 30 yards it has to be outside of 30 yards. And it also negates any range penalties that apply to ranged attack tests. So archers get this. I think there was another discipline that we covered that had this as well. Sky Raiders actually get it at a high circle because, where you're dealing with airships and stuff and you might be at longer ranges. So that could be applied there. If you are going with a ranged build for your scout in terms of their combat ability, Eagle Eye works as well for them as it would for an archer. But even without that, the ability to gain bonuses to your perception tests to essentially notice things that are far away can be particularly useful and is appropriate.
Oh, waiting for that one. At 10th circle, the scout gets a +2 to their mystic defense, replacing their +1 from the original number. And they also get an additional recovery test per day. Not bad. And the discipline talent at 10th circle is Chameleon.
Chameleon is a bonus. It's a constant point of strain, but it adds the rank in Chameleon as a bonus to any tests to avoid detection. Stealthy Stride, for example, it would provide a bonus to that. Any other kind of, situation where they would be trying to avoid detection, Chameleon could apply as a bonus.
Nicely done. At 11th circle, the scout gets a +1 to their social defense for a first boost there, and they may now spend a karma point on attack tests made against opponents who have not yet attacked the scout in that encounter. Very nice to have. And the discipline talent is echolocation.
Echolocation allows the adept to... The echolocation adds its rank as a bonus to any awareness tests against solid objects, and it allows the adept to ignore darkness penalties. So if you are in, for example, ethereal darkness, which affects sight regardless of what kind of low light or heat vision abilities you might have, echolocation would allow you to take advantage of that. If you are a Tiskrang or a human or any other name giver race that does not have a dark vision or pseudo dark vision ability, it allows you to do that. It does have a little bit of a limit in terms of its range, that it's your echolocation rank ×2. So that's useful there.
Oh, totally. At 12th circle, the scout gets a +4 to their physical defense, eliminating the +3, they 1, 2, and 3 they got earlier. And they also now add a +2 to their base initiative step. Not bad for 12th circle. And the discipline talent, Bloodhound form.
We talked about this with the Beastmaster ages ago. Oh, yeah. Bloodhound form is an enhancement to tracking. It provides its rank as a bonus to any tracking tests that the adept might make, but also allows them to track the target or locate the tracks of the target by scent rather than requiring a visible physical track for them to do it, and could even track the target just basically by scent sort of through the air alone. So that can be handy.
Yeah, reminds me. Am I the only one who's thinking of the Bloodhound gang from PBS shows 30 years, 40 years ago? Is that just me? Okay.
The Bloodhound gang was on 321 Contact.
There you go.
They were the little mystery. They were the little mystery thing at the end of that show.
Yeah.
I loved 321 Contact, man. That was a great show.
So did I.
Incidentally, and we probably might have talked about this in other cases. All three of these sort of boosted abilities, Eagle Eye, echolocation, and bloodhound form, all of them, actually the magic transforms the character in a limited sense to sort of give them the appearance of whatever it is. When Eagle Eye, their eyes take on the appearance more of like a raptor's or a bird of prey. Bloodhound form does kind of shape them to be able to, like, it affects their nose or their facial features in a way that they'd be able to do that. Echolocation kind of changes the ears as well. So there is a sort of physical manifestation of the use of those abilities.
Yeah. Going to be very cool. So if that's not enough for you from 10, 11, 12 circles, you get some options to go along with those. So you get 4 of these options, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's a list of 8, however, and most of these are just kind of holdovers from the player's guide. So we'll get to those first. Things like animal possession.
Yeah, we talked about this before. This allows, because of sort of the wilderness and Beastmaster overlap, with this is basically the idea that the adept can put their mind into a creature and use it to take control of it in a sense for a limited period of time.
Not bad. Animal talk.
Pretty useful. Again, kind of from the Beastmaster side of things, it allows them to talk to animals. This may seem like it is an ability that might be better suited towards lower circles, but the amount of information that you could conceivably get from having access to the wild animals in the area actually could potentially make it a lot more useful than you might think.
Agreed. And animal training.
Yeah, again, this is sort of like taking from the Beastmaster shared overlap of these disciplines, much like the Beastmaster animal training. Beastmaster gets it earlier, but you know, if you've got a scout that's sort of doing an animal companion sort of Beastmastery type thing, but this is an option because not everybody will necessarily have animal companions that they would want to be using this on.
Agreed. Etiquette.
Etiquette would be is very, very handy for the scout in terms of understanding the social situations and rules of where they are and their ability to fit in and whatnot. It's not available earlier, mainly because there wasn't really room for it.
Fair. No worries. Iron Constitution.
This is a bonus to resist
poisons and things.
Poisons and diseases. I think it provides a bonus to toughness when making those sorts of tests.
Yeah, no worries. Life check.
We've talked about this one a bunch of times. If your damage goes over your death rating, it gives you a chance to make a recovery test or tests in order to avoid buying the farm.
Doesn't hurt. And then wood skin.
Wood skin is available very early for a couple of other disciplines. This provides additional death and unconsciousness rating points that will prevent you, makes it harder to injure you.
Yeah, very helpful for the scout because it's not often that the scout has anything for defense.
Yeah, they've got a void blow, but not a lot of other like super useful stuff.
So then there's 3 on the list that are new to the companion, and those are critical hit.
Critical hit is a straight up damage adder. If you roll high enough on your attack test, it just adds its rank as a bonus to the damage. No strain or additional test or anything like that required.
Nope, just fantastic stuff. Plant talk.
Plant talk, much like animal talk, again, very useful in certain circumstances and higher circle than you might expect because of the amount of potential information that you could get as a result of it.
Totally. And the last one, Relentless recovery.
Relentless recovery is available to a whole bunch of different disciplines. This provides its rank as a bonus to toughness when making regular recovery tests.
Gotcha. So on to 13th circle. And again, the scout, along with everybody else, gets something fantastic at 13th circle. This one is called One with the World. The adepts can transform and become a natural part of their surroundings. They take 3 blood magic damage and make a scout weaving test against their mystic defense. The adept's appearance, accent, demeanor, and so forth adapt to the environment. In wild areas, they change to fit in with the scenery, while in populated areas, they will naturally look and behave as a native. The adept adds a +2 bonus per success to any tests made to go unnoticed, blend in, or otherwise appear as if they belong. If they do nothing out of the ordinary to attract attention, tests to notice the adept should only be allowed if specifically looking for them. Each success also gives the adept +2 bonus to notice if something doesn't fit or is amiss while the ability is active. Use of this ability always scores at least 1 success and lasts until the adept cancels it, at which point the damage can be healed.
Yeah, this is more or less a sort of rules version of that scout example that I mentioned earlier, where their magic is advanced enough that they sort of magically fit in wherever they are. I mean, this is sort of like the spy ability. This is their ability to fit into a place and not be noticed, especially if nobody isn't particularly looking for them, but also to notice that things might be strange while they're doing it. This is an absolute, like, capstone infiltrator ability.
Love it. For defense, the scouts now get a +3 to their mystic defense, replacing their +1/+2 from earlier. And the karma now increases from a step 4, D6, to a step 5, D8.
You got it!
Only took me 15 tries. And yes, I had to write it down. Because I'm horrible. The Mystic Armor. Scouts now get a +1 to their Mystic Armor at 13th Circle. And because every point counts, believe me, it does. And then the Discipline talent that Scouts get is the Alley Cat Approach.
Alley Cat Approach is a talent that's also available to Beastmasters. Again, a lot of sort of Beastmaster overlap here.
Yeah.
It does require the Adept to spend a recovery test to power it, but they make a test and each success provides them bonuses to initiative, as well as any action tests made to navigate and maneuver through urban environments. So climbing, chasing, escaping, but not direct, other than initiative, not direct combat tests. So not on attack tests or damage tests or anything like that. And it lasts for a number of hours. So it lasts for quite a while.
And Thieves get it as a master talent option.
Oh, do they? Okay.
So, yes,
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I was like, Thieves have to get that one. And they do.
And like the other sort of animal-related talents we mentioned earlier, this also kind of does alter their appearance and bearing to make them a little bit more feline.
Yeah. Gonna like that one. So at 14th Circle, the Scouts now get a +5 to their physical defense, probably the end of their limit on that one. And they gain a second additional recovery test per day. So badass to have. And the Discipline talent for Scouts at 14th Circle, Elemental Walk.
Elemental Walk is available to, not surprisingly, Elementalists. Mm-hmm. That's a high circle talent for them as well. But it serves very much the same purpose here for the Scout. It allows them to survive in environments where they otherwise would not be able to. On triggering the ability, they can designate an element and are immune to any negative effects associated with it for a period of time. So one who chose water, for example, would not be able to drown. Someone who took fire would be okay. Things like that. Yeah. It is particularly useful and very appropriate for the Scout who, at this lofty levels of power, is able to magically survive in environments where they otherwise would not.
Very nice. So at 15th Circle, Scouts get to add a +2 to their social defense, and they also add a +3 to their base initiative step, replacing the 1s and 2s from before. And the Discipline talent at 15th Circle is World Pulse.
I think this is unique to Scouts. I don't think anybody else gets this.
No, we've not talked about this one at all.
It's a sustained action. The Adept needs to meditate and then makes a test. Each success on the test grants them information regarding features of the area within their rank in World Pulse in miles. So a single success sort of gives you general natural features and direction, though not distance. 2 successes indicate any man-made features within the area. 3 reveals anomalies, like where the area, perhaps elemental nodes or barrier between the worlds is sort of thinner. And basically, like, the more successes that you get, the more useful and specific information becomes available. And if that information is to be used in pursuit of finding something specific, then it does provide bonuses to the relevant test, like navigation or wilderness survival or anything like that, in order to do that. This is basically, as the flavor text describes, it's like reaching down and touching the pattern of the world, and is a profoundly personal and deeply moving experience for whoever performs it.
Absolutely. Which is why it's saved for 15th Circle, because it's kind of badass as well. So, and very powerful. So along with 13th, 14th, and 15th Circle, at those 3 circles, you each get, of course, an option, as we have done with everything else. And there's a lot of them here. So a couple of these are not new to the companion, like second attack and second shot.
Those are both straightforward additional attack options that are available at lower circles for warriors, swordmasters, archers as relevant. It gives the adept, the scout, the ability to make an additional attack of the chosen type.
Yeah, pretty much. So if you're not playing a melee, you want second shot for anything you're doing at range.
For ranged.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fair enough. So the ones new to the companion are Eidetic Memory.
Eidetic Memory provides a bonus to the next test that is made to recall information. This includes knowledge and book memory tests. It's a simple action. It just basically provides a bonus to remembering stuff.
Fair enough. Matrix Sight.
Matrix Sight we've covered a number of times. This is the pseudo-astral perception ability that allows you to see spell matrices and learn information about them and potentially the spells and stuff that are included in there.
Yeah. Netherwalk.
Netherwalk we talked about with the scout, with the Nethermancer. We talked about, I believe, the Thief gets it as well. It allows the adept to temporarily open a portal into astral space and to move through astral space. It is not a teleport, but it does allow them to bypass certain types of obstacles. But of course, there is the danger of traveling in astral space due to astral corruption and the dangers and hazards that exist therein.
Absolutely. And this is the last time we get to mention Second Chance.
It's our last chance for Second Chance. We don't have anything
Exactly.
to add here.
Not at all. Soul Aegis.
Soul Aegis is a bonus to defenses, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
You make a roll, and it provides bonuses based on your results to both Mystic and Social Defense.
Fair enough. And the last, Spirit Strike.
Spirit Strike allows the adept to attack an opponent mystically instead of physically. If they're successful, the adept makes a damage test as normal based on the weapon used. So that basically they're attacking against the target's mystic defense rather than physical defense with a physical weapon. Yeah. It does require, if you do not, in some capacity, astral sense the target, there's a penalty to the test, but this works really well in conjunction with Matrix Sight to specifically target matrices, but scouts also get access to astral sight earlier as an option, maybe even a discipline talent.
Yeah.
So it's useful to go along with that as well. It allows you, you can attack a target that is purely in astral space if you're aware it's there using this talent.
That works well. So, as we've done with everybody else, what are your suggestions?
With the scout, it really depends on what you're doing and what the group makeup is. I mean, that's the case for most of these, but this is really the case with scout. I feel at this point, even if you are not necessarily building a combat scout, for lack of a better term, because scout gets access to surprise strike early on, kind of picking up a little bit from their thief overlap.
Yeah.
But it's probably not a bad idea to pick up either second attack or second shot, depending on whether you are primarily a melee or a ranged combatant, just to give yourself the extra attack option that is in there. Second chance might actually not be a bad choice in here. If the idea is survivable, you're talking about like wilderness survival and things like that. Yeah. Obviously, at this high a circle, most mundane wilderness situations are not going to cause you any problems, but getting into weirder circumstances, it might be worth having that second chance to give yourself another test to survive a hazardous environment. Soul Aegis is pretty good because of the bonuses to Mystic and Social Defense. Spirit Strike is probably not a bad one. That is applicable either for ranged or missile weapons, and the ability to be able to attack a target versus their mystic defense as opposed to their physical is worthwhile, and to attack targets that might be purely in astral space. You don't need to pick up Matrix Sight for that to be effective. If you've already got astral sight, which, I think I would recommend that you probably do. Netherwalk is cool, but particularly
troublesome.
Well, kind of circumstantial and dangerous in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
Eidetic Memory is cool, but I don't know that that's necessarily as higher a priority. With the Warden Tier, If you feel like you have not been contributing, depending on the style of the game, that you have not been contributing particularly well in combat, critical hit is probably worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
Wood skin and or iron constitution are probably nice. Life check obviously can always be particularly handy. Animal possession, animal talk, plant talk. If you don't have another way or other members of the group that are able to gather information through that way or to take advantage of it, they might be worth looking at. Etiquette, always pretty useful to have good social abilities that you can lean on to take care of that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think the strengths with the scout, and I think we probably talked about this back in the first scout episode, like scouts are broadly useful, but if you don't have as much of an investigative or exploratory or a game where the scouts' strengths really come into play, it's probably not going to go as well. There's a lot of overlap in terms of potential party role in the scout with some of the utility abilities of the Beastmaster or the Thief. And whether a scout or thief is going to be better largely depends on, what exactly the nature of the game is going to be. Thieves get easier access to like the traditional, like noticing traps and stuff, whereas I think the scout might need to pick that up as an option.
They do.
Yeah. And the sort of, again, like sort of little bit of overlap Beastmaster. You shouldn't be looking at the scout as being a major combat contributor. While they do have some combat ability, they are not going to be able to bring to bear the kind of damage output that an archer or a swordmaster or a warrior or a sky raider would be able to. What the scout would really be doing in sort of a combat situation, if you are looking at building a quote-unquote combat scout, is doing a similar thing as the thief, which would be to pick up surprise strike and sort of partner up with another character that could be using perhaps distract or some other way, and you sort of stealth your way around the field to try and bring surprise strike to bear when you can. But the thief is kind of a little bit better at that, especially when you get into these higher circles and they get a little bit more of the, I can sort of vanish in plain sight kind of stuff to regain potential surprise situations or generating other circumstances that would allow you to take advantage of surprise strike. So
a little too circumstantial.
Yeah, I mean, the scout is great, and it fills a role that, in terms of an archetype, a role that is otherwise not particularly present in terms of Earth Dawn. Like, it's got a little bit of thief, it's got a little bit of Beastmaster, it's got a little bit of archer, and if you decide to go melee. A touch of Elementalist, but mostly in the areas that allow them to survive in hazardous environments and to deal with that.
Yeah.
The Scout pairs really well with, again, if you're looking to, as many people are, and there's nothing wrong with it, if you are trying to bring a little bit more combat prowess to bear, pairs really well with an archer. They don't pair so well with the physical disciplines as much. Warrior is probably the closest one that they would pair with. Sky Raider is a little bit too aggressive, and the Swordmaster is a little bit too flamboyant to like work well with the Scout's idea of going unseen and unnoticed and blending into the environment, whereas the Swordmaster would be wanting to stand out in their own way. Scout also pairs kind of well with Beastmaster, but at that, you get rid of at that point, you don't necessarily need to have melee weapons. You could go Beastmaster to have missile weapons as sort of a backup in case you got to that. There is enough potential overlap with, I could see a cavalryman scout working well also. There's enough of sort of the wilderness ranger type, like a cavalryman scout would be more like a Pony Express type, kind of off on their own with their mount going through the wilderness, delivering messages or exploring or whatever, rather than necessarily being part of a cavalryman unit and leaning more towards the idea of the bond between rider and mount. So that would be a potentially interesting idea. And then you start like bringing in something like, say, the messenger path. There's some really potentially interesting stuff going on there.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the scout is nothing particularly flashy. Their utility in a game will kind of depend a little bit on what the game is like, but they can work equally well in either wilderness or urban environments as a perception monkey, investigative, like noticing stuff, because they tend to have high perception, high awareness, and can fill in that sort of investigative and noticing things role that is sometimes filled by other disciplines as well, but they fit that pretty nicely.
Yeah, totally. I think they filled, like you said, they fit well with, they're a little bit of combat, they're a little bit of investigation, they're a little bit of nature, they're a little bit of urban. So it's just, I think the scout is the perfect Venn diagram of Earth.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap with some other things, and so they can fill in as a good, I want to use the term utility infielder.
They're the Swiss Army knife.
They're sort of, they're sort of a Swiss Army knife. They're the utility infielder of the disciplines. They've got a little bit of everything. They're not quite, I wouldn't quite say jack of all trades, but they have enough overlap with a couple of other disciplines that they can sort of substitute and like help fill in that role within a group reasonably well. As long as you go into them understanding what you're getting into, then I think they are very serviceable. But I could also understand in a similar way, like with Troubadour, somebody who is doing that exclusively, depending on the game, might be a little bit frustrated and feel like they aren't necessarily contributing as much as they want to in a more combat-heavy game, especially as you get into higher circles and the combat disciplines start getting your real multiple attacks and damage enhancers and all sorts of other stuff that the scout doesn't really get access to until much, much later.
No, fair. I think for the worst analogy possible, that would be the mortar that holds all the other bricks of the party together. They stick to each one of them individually.
In a sense, I could see them as sort of a leader, as a coordinator of the group. In a sense, they don't quite have the solitude bent that, say, some thieves have.
Oh yeah.
And again, like the idea of the scout being someone that is comfortable potentially in any situation, thematically is just like really kind of laid back, cool as a cucumber, kind of iconic attitude in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're kind of cool. I tend to have them be a choice when I make the pre-gens for my convention games and whatnot, because they are such a sort of broadly useful, like have a lot of overlap in terms of other stuff. And if you play them as a name giver race that is a little bit more sturdy or hardy, an orc scout or a troll scout or something like that can actually be like even more, a little bit more effective combat wise. Yeah. Simply because they have those bonuses to like strength and toughness and stuff that will enhance things.
Absolutely. So, folks, if you have any questions for us, or you'd like it to provide us any examples of something you find as a useful idea to base a scout off of in popular culture, we'd love to hear about it. So please feel free to contact us at edsgpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, go be one with the world for your legend.
Good night, everybody.